The Black Codes. The Black Codes, sometimes called the Black Laws, were laws which governed the conduct of African Americans. In 1832, James Kent wrote that, "In most of the United States, there is a distinct in respect to political privileges between free white person and freed colored person of African blood, and in no part of the country do the latter in point of fact participate equally with the whites in the exercise of civil and political rights." Although black codes existed before the Civil War and many northern states had them, it was the Democrat-led southern U.S. states that codified such laws in everyday practice. The best known of them were passed in 1865 and 1866 by Southern states after the American Civil War in order to restrict African Americans' freedom and to compel them to work for low or no wages. Before the Civil War, black codes in the Antebellum South strongly regulated the activity and behavior of blacks, especially free blacks, who were not considered citizens. Chattel slaves basically lived under the control of their owners, and there was little need for extensive legislation. All the Southern states imposed at least minimum limits on slaves' punishments, for example, by making mortal or life-threatening injuries to slaves a crime, and a few states allowed slaves a limited right of self-defense, as slaves could not use the court or sheriff, or give testimonies against a white man. In practice, these meant little. Free blacks presented a challenge to the boundaries of white-dominated societies. In many Southern states, particularly after Nat Turner's uprising in 1831, they were denied the right of citizens to assemble in groups, bear arms, learn to read and write, exercise free speech, or testify against the white people in court. After 1810, states made the release of slaves more difficult to obtain, in some states requiring an act of assembly for each case of release. This sharply reduced the incidence of planters freeing slaves. Northern states. As the abolitionist movement gained force and the Underground Railroad helped fugitive slaves escape the North, concerns about black people heightened among Northern white people. Territories and states near the slave states did not welcome freed black people, but north of the Mason-Dixon line, anti-black laws were generally less severe. Some public spaces were segregated, and black people generally did not have the right to vote. In Oregon, black people were forbidden to settle, marry, or sign contracts. In Ohio, black people required a certificate that they were free and good behavior bond. The Indiana Council decreed in 1843 that only white students could attend public schools. Article 13 of Indiana's 1851 Constitution banned black people from settling in the state. Anyone who helped black people settle in the state or employed black settlers could be fined. Article 13 had the most popular vote among Houstoners compared to all other articles voted upon. The Supreme Court declared Article 13 invalid in 1866. The 1848 Constitution of Illinois contributed to the state passing one of the harshest black code systems in the nation until the Civil War. The Illinois Black Code of 1853 prohibited any black person from outside the state from staying in the state for more than 10 days, subjecting black people who violated that rule to arrest, detention, a $50 fine, or deportation. However, while slavery was illegal in Illinois, landowners in the southern parts of the state would legally bring in slaves from Kentucky and forced them to do agricultural work for no wages. They had to be removed from the state for 1 day each year, thus preventing them from being citizens of Illinois and receiving the protection of its laws. Post-Civil War years. As the war ended, the U.S. Army implemented Black Code to regulate the behavior of Black people in general society. Although the Freedmen's Bureau had mandated to protect blacks from hostile Southern environments, it also sought to keep blacks in their place as laborers in order to allow production on the plantations to resume so that the South could revive its economy. As soon as the end of slavery, white planters encountered a labor shortage and sought a way to manage it. Although blacks did not abruptly stop working, they did try to work less. In particular, many sought to reduce their Saturday work hours, and women wanted to spend more time on their child care. Black codes restricted black people's rights to own property, conduct business, buy and lease land, and move freely through public places. A central element of the black codes were vagrancy laws. States criminalized men who were out of work and who were not working at a job whites recognized. Failure to pay certain taxes or to comply with other laws could also be construed as vagrancy.